Hi, everyone, and welcome to Module 5. This week, we're going to be talking about software testing. When you think about software testing, we're talking about concepts of, after we have written our software, we want to, of course, test it. We want to make sure it runs correctly. So we need to think about things like what environment does our customer have? Are we writing a software that deploys to a desktop computer? Or are they going to run that on their computer? And so how's that going to behave? If we're talking about software that's going to run on a server, through some automated fashion that does some particular function of transformation of data from one format to another, we still need to test it, even if it's running behind the scenes. We want to make sure that we are testing the behavior of the software and trying to throw different scenarios at the software that it might encounter, and then think about ways to program around those scenarios. And so when we're writing our software, we want to make error messages perhaps that are human readable. A great example of a bad error message is the Windows blue screen of death. Most people, if you've used Windows for a while or in its earlier days, you'd be using your computer and then all of a sudden you'd have this big blue screen show up, and with right writing, and it would say fatal exception error. That really means nothing to a human. So as you're thinking about testing, you want to think about error messages that are coming out of your software so that the human can respond to that error message, and you understand what's wrong with your software as you're testing it. You want it to make sense to you as well as your customer, depending on the audience for the software. Then you want to think about how to log messages. So if you are testing someone else's software, testing your own software, you want to know how to reproduce it. So when you write up a bug report or report a bug in software, you want to say, okay, using a Linux operating system with this version number, I checked out and ran software version 1 or alpha version or whatever the version is, and ran into this error using this data or using this circumstance. You want to write a good bug report that tells someone else how to reproduce the error, because just saying I got this error is not very actionable to another developer. You need to communicate to the other developer when you issue a bug report of how you encountered it and how that person can reproduce it, so that they in turn can think about ways to address the issue that's being caused. Then you want to think about, with software testing, you want to think about roles. Do you test in a bubble? Like, if you're not a part of a team, if you're a single standalone developer on a piece of software and don't have a tester, that means that you are testing your own software. And so that's not the most ideal situation, but it can happen. But more ideally, you're developing software, and you're hopefully on a team of developers, and you can ask one of your fellow developers to run the software independently of you, with no influence. Perhaps you're not even in the room at all when they run the software. They independently view, they check it out, they follow your instructions in a good documentation and README to how to install the software, run it, use it. And then they, if they run into errors, they're logging them for you, and they tell you how to reproduce them, so that you in turn can go and try to address the issues. So it's kind of like pair testing sessions, basically, or remote testing with using other people. And so these concepts I'm talking about now kind of gear you up for the next two modules, for module 6 and 7, where we get into our development testing environment. So we're going to talk about software testing in an overview of concepts in it, and then this kind of gets you ready for next week when you set up a Vagrant box or a Docker a virtual machine to test your software later next week. So hope you enjoy the content this week. If you need any help, just reach out to me. Thank you.